20 years old when I first got married. Still a baby. I just got my ears pierced. What are you talking about? Still a baby.
With her hit single Jesus, Leandria Johnson touched the hearts of millions. However, her life was far from perfect. At the age of 41, after years of rumors and pressure, Leandria decided to confront her past. What challenges led to her downfall? How did one fateful night change her life? Stay tuned for an answer. Before we explore the rumors surrounding Leandria, let's take a look back at her childhood and her journey to the spotlight. This will help you better understand the challenges she overcame. The 23rd of January 1983 found Leandria Johnson being born in Palatka, Florida, into a family that was both musically and religiously inclined. Leandria Johnson's parents, Bishop Gregory Johnson and Pastor Sharon Johnson, were well-known characters in the religious community in Altamont Springs, where she spent her childhood. During her formative years, she was profoundly impacted by the music and spiritual principles that were imparted to her family. At the age of 2, Leandria began to exhibit her gift for singing by taking part in the chorus at her local church. During her formative years, she was actively involved in the activities of the church, where she swiftly ascended through the ranks to become a worship leader. Not only was hosting a weekly responsibility for her, but it was also a means for her to exhibit her faith and love for the cause. The vocal aptitude of Leandria and her emotional involvement in the gospel message became more apparent as she got older. Being a leader in worship sessions eventually became an essential component of her life. After beginning her career as a musician in the church, Leandria encountered a great deal of difficulty on her way to achieving success. When Leandria Johnson was an adult, she began her career as a performer and singer-songwriter, and she struggled to find a balance between her creative endeavors and the reality of life. Despite her skill, she had a great deal of personal difficulty. During the time that she participated in the audition for the well-known gospel singing competition, Sunday Best, she was already a mother of 3 and had endured 2 marriages that had ended negatively. A severe load was also imposed by the financial difficulties. As a matter of fact, Leandria's house was taken away from her by the foreclosure process before her life-altering audition. She was forced to rely on her relatives and friends to transport her to the audition, and she was only able to wear the clothing that was on her back since she had nowhere else to go. The appearance that Leandria made at the audition for Sunday Best was not particularly impressive. The fact that she appeared in the identical clothing, flip-flops, and socks that she had worn the day before made it simple for the judges to form their opinions about her, solely based on her looks throughout the competition. 4 of the judges, including Erica and Tina Campbell of Mary Kay, voiced their reservations with her fashion sense. As soon as Leandria began singing, "This is the day that the Lord has made," her voice shined through and won over the judges, even though Erica Campbell openly doubted her abilities. A unanimous vote was cast in favor of her continuing to compete in the competition because of her great skill. Not only was Leandria's performance remarkable for her vocal abilities, but it was also remarkable for the raw emotion and intensity that she transmitted, which left a profound effect on everyone present. Those who were closest to Leandria Johnson, especially her mentor Kim Burrell, could see that she was carrying a burden on her mind despite the fact that she gave the impression of being strong on the outside. Kim came to the realization that Leandria was carrying a load of emotion, which was something that was preventing her from moving forward at times. In the 9th episode of Sunday Best, the 2 of them had a talk that was filled with emotion because of this issue. Leandria revealed to Kim, in a heartfelt moment, that she had contemplated ending her life rather than continuing to live because she was feeling overpowered by the challenges that she endured in her life. At the moment, she could not see any way to improve her prospects. Nevertheless, it was during that gloomy period that she experienced the presence of God, which sustained her during her difficulties. This discovery turned out to be a pivotal moment in Leandria's life, and it had a significant role in her choice to sing "In the Midst of It All" in the 4th episode of the season. Not only did Leandria's dramatic performance leave an indelible mark on the judges, but it also created an imprint on the audience that lasted long after the competition was over. In addition to having a wonderful voice, she was able to communicate profound feelings via each note, which made her a standout contender in the competition. The path that Leandria took, on the other hand, was not always easy. She continued to confront a great deal of difficulty on her route to discovering the light. Leandria still experienced periods of self-doubt and reluctance, even though her skill was indisputable. The demands of the competition, in addition to the personal issues she was carrying, made the path to achievement much more challenging for her than she was already on. Elder Goldwire McClendon, a great competitor in his own right, was the opponent whom Leandria faced up against in the final round of Sunday Best. During the last performance, the two gave performances that will be remembered for a long time. Leandra gave performances of I Love the Lord, He Was There, and In the Midst of Something. Leandria's extraordinary journey on the program came to a successful conclusion on June 20th, 2010, when she was triumphantly proclaimed the winner of Sunday Best. This moment represented the climax of her adventure. She not only received acclaim for her accomplishment, but she also received a monetary award, a brand new Ford Taurus, and a national recording deal as a result of her success. Leandra had triumphed over the overwhelming odds to win the title of champion for the season, despite the fact that she had been struggling for several months before the competition. It was how she learned of her triumph that made it feel even more unbelievable. Even though the conclusion of the show had been pre-recorded with two distinct endings, Leandria was at home in Orlando with her family watching the event when the winner was revealed. Her response was a reflection of the utter happiness and astonishment that she was experiencing at that very moment. After some time had passed, she remembers feeling astonished and adding, "I was like, for real? Insane. It was just incredible, just like fireworks. Never before have I witnessed my family in such a joyful state. Having won Sunday Best, Leandria's life would never be the same again, since she would have access to a national stage and the accolades that came along with it." Nevertheless, despite the fact that she achieved new heights, the difficulties she encountered did not go away. Rather than being less noticeable, they merely got more noticeable as she navigated life in the public glare. Ministerial following her victory on Sunday Best, Leandria became not just a well-known singer, but also a spiritual leader who would go on to forge her path in the ministry. It goes without saying that her music served as the basis, and she made swift use of the platform that she had recently acquired. The publication of her first extended play, EP, titled The Awakening of Leandria Johnson, in 2011 was one of the defining events in her career. The popular song Jesus was generated as a result of this effort, which not only gained her exposure but also earned her the coveted Grammy Award for Best Gospel Contemporary Christian Music Performance. This production served as the launchpad for her great musical career. On the other hand, the success of her musical career was not the only thing that resulted from this effort. Not only did she begin to use her voice to sing, but she also began to use it to communicate with people who were in the greatest need of assistance. Leandra found herself at the vanguard of a new kind of ministry, whether it was through her music, public appearances, or ministering to her increasing following. She experienced this from a variety of sources. It was at this point that her unconventional method started to take shape, and it became abundantly clear that her purpose extended well beyond the confines of the pulpit or the choir stand. A great number of people found hope in Leandria as a result of her achievements. The capacity of her ministry to connect with individuals who were frequently disregarded or ignored by conventional churches was the defining characteristic that set it apart from others. Following the establishment of IPC ministries, also known as Imperfect People Changing, this became increasingly apparent. It was clear from the name alone that something was odd. Those who felt defective, damaged, or lost were the ones who received this summons. Her ministry was founded on the principle that it was not about being flawless or fitting a particular mold. Rather, it was about evolving, developing, and accepting the messiness of life while yet aiming for improvement on a spiritual level. IPC Ministries hosted its inaugural service on June 16, 2013, in Atlanta. The service was held in Atlanta. It was not supposed to be a conventional church service, and it was not a usual church service. Johnson infused her ministry with her own unique style, concentrating on individuals who, like herself, had experienced hardship, struggle, and even homelessness in their lives. She was able to empathize with the struggles that many people in society encountered since she had been homeless herself at one point. She made it her mission to meet people where they were, without passing judgment or pretending to be someone else through her ministry. One of her most noteworthy accomplishments was the concert that she and IPC Ministries put on for New Year's Eve in 2014, which was hosted outside. While it was true that the performance was primarily devoted to praise and worship, that was not the only purpose of the event. Additionally, the event provided the homeless population in Atlanta with food, clothing, and other essentials. There was a tremendous amount of success, and as a result, Leandria decided to start Progress, which was an outreach program that not only gave individuals in need food and clothes, but also Bibles and other different resources. The unusual approaches that she used did not end there. How Leandria conducted her ministry became a topic of conversation once she became a contestant on the reality show Preachers of Atlanta in the year 2015. The show, which was a spin-off of Preachers of LA, chronicled the lives of 5 pastors living in Atlanta, each of whom had their own distinctive approach to service to the community. Leandria distinguished out due to her straightforward demeanor and unconventional approaches to problem-solving. During the course of the show, she was shown engaging in activities that, in the opinion of a great number of religious leaders, were at best problematic. In some of the inner-city districts of Atlanta, for example, Leandria did not hesitate to provide condoms and smokes to people. Some of her contemporaries were taken aback by this, since they perceived it as a form of approval for acts that the church had historically condemned. On the other hand, Leandria had a different point of view. Her perspective was that it was about meeting people where they were, beginning talks, and opening doors to spiritual conversations that otherwise may not have taken place due to other circumstances. She was of the opinion that these seemingly little and provocative actions were a means of establishing connections with those who would not otherwise enter a church. Her messages were unmistakable. The fact that they are going to do it is something that we do not condone, but we do want them to be safe. Although many of her detractors viewed this as a method to make sin easier to commit, Leandria saw it as a chance to share her testimony, initiate talks about faith, and provide a way to call people into the church that did not include judgment. It was via this technique that she carried out her mission. When it came to Johnson, it was not about adhering to the rules or using conventional approaches. She was more interested in the individuals, their stories, their problems, and their desire to change than she was in the organization itself. This attitude won her the respect of a significant number of individuals that she was able to connect with, since she was not afraid to get her hands dirty, so to speak. In the future, she would explain that some of the people to whom she had distributed condoms or smokes ended up attending church, and a significant number of them remained there, expressing their gratitude for the straightforward and truthful manner in which she had dealt with them. It was also evident in her personal life that she maintained the same unrefined and unabashed approach. When Leandria appeared on Celebration of Gospel in 2013, many people speculated that she was carrying a baby at the time. This caused stories to begin to circulate. Shortly after that, she established beyond a reasonable doubt that she was carrying her 4th kid. Nevertheless, in contrast to her prior 3 pregnancies, this one was unique in that she was not married at the time of the pregnancy. People who attended church and maintained traditional ideas of marriage and family were particularly affected by the news, which generated a commotion. Even though she was the subject of controversy, Leandria did not avoid being in the public eye. She did not let the criticism stop her from ministering and performing during her pregnancy. She did not let it stop her performance. In the eyes of some, this was just another instance of her deviating from the norm and refusing to comply with the expectations that were placed upon her. Others interpreted it as a demonstration of her genuineness and her commitment to living her life in an open and honest manner. When she began her path in ministry, she was not just concerned with reaching those outside the doors of the church. It was also a significant amount of personal development. Leandra has been married 3 times, and she has been candid about her experiences with marriage and divorce throughout her life. She was married for the first time when she was 20 years old, and she stated in later interviews that she was too young to truly comprehend what it meant to be married at that time. Her 2nd and 3rd marriages both ended in divorce, even though she had doubts about being married in the first place. Her 2nd marriage, which was to Forrest Walker, was particularly difficult since Johnson made public the fact that he had been unfaithful to her before they eventually divorced. In the years that followed, she wed another man, Underwood, but that marriage too eventually came to an end. After the divorce was finalized, Leandria took some time to reflect on her path and open out to her admirers. She said that she was not flawless and that she had made errors at various points in her life. In an open and honest post on social media, Leandria acknowledged her humanity and fragility, acknowledging that she, like everyone else, has her challenges. However, rather than getting more criticism, she discovered that her fans and followers provided her with an incredible amount of support. Because the outpouring of love and support was so powerful, Leandria turned to social media once again to express her gratitude to everyone for their generosity and to let them know that she was very moved by the love that she received. There are debates. In 2018, one of the most major moments of controversy occurred when Leandria's connection with the gospel community reached a boiling point during a Facebook livestream. This event resulted in much controversy. She was able to openly vent her dissatisfaction with the gospel industry, and she did so by using language that was filled with expletives, which startled a lot of her followers as well as her peers. A significant amount of criticism was directed at her as a result of this particular occurrence, which ultimately resulted in her being removed from a key performance for the Essence Festival. When Leandria was participating in that live stream, she made it quite obvious that she was sick and tired of the limitations that come with being a typical gospel performer. She made a comparison between herself and some of the most prominent figures in the world of gospel and secular music, stating that if she were ready to adhere to the standards set out by the business, she could accomplish the same degree of success as Kirk Franklin, Mary, or even Beyoncé. On the other hand, Leandra vehemently asserted that she had no desire to participate in any games, and that she was sick and tired of complying with the standards of the gospel world. The extent of her candor extended to the admission that she was exhausted by the entire system. She stated that she would not alter her personality or refrain from cussing in order to conform to a particular mold. Her sentiments rapidly made their way to the organizers of the Essence Festival, where she was due to sing as part of a group tribute to gospel star Dottie Peoples. Her courage was not overlooked, and it was shortly after that her words were distributed. Almost immediately after that, Leandria was notified that her participation in the performance had been cancelled as a result of her statements, which included a particularly severe criticism of the church setting. As is her custom, Leandria did not retreat from her position. She uploaded yet another video, in which she unequivocally explained that the reason she was not allowed to attend the event was because she protected her right to free expression. Her grievances with the politics of the church, which she considered had been oppressive not just to her but also to others who felt disenfranchised by its tight regulations and traditionalism, were alluded to in the same film. She believed that the church's politics had been oppressive to her. Similarly, Leandria Johnson did not hold back her views toward fellow gospel performer Marvin Winans. She recounted an occasion in which she felt insulted by Winans. She stated that he had gone by her as if she were a peasant, which was an insult that further exacerbated her dissatisfaction with the hierarchy of the church. Even more attention was drawn to her outspoken attitude as a result of this incident, which only served to add gasoline to the controversy that was already surrounding her. After some time had passed, Leandria Johnson tendered an apology, notwithstanding the significance of the words she had first made. She made it clear in a video that she posted on Instagram that the remarks she made were meant at the politics that were taking on within the church, and not toward the church itself or Christianity in general. She expressed apologies for the harsh language that she used and admitted that her use of vulgarity may have upset some of her admirers, particularly those who attend church on a daily basis. On the other hand, she insisted that her criticisms of the institutional issues that existed inside the church were correct. It was not the end of Leandria's controversy at that point. In the year 2024, she found herself in a precarious situation once more, but this time for fundamentally different reasons. Her stage appearance and interactions with the audience generated yet another round of criticism while she was performing at Radio 1 Raleig's Women's Empowerment event, which included a star-studded roster of performers. While her vocal performance was, as it usually is, strong and fascinating, fans were distracted by two things: her attire and the conduct of her security detail. Her performance was forceful and captivating. The blue dress that Leandria wore attracted quick notice because, in the opinion of some of her more conservative followers, it was excessively exposing. As soon as a video of her performance was uploaded on the internet, comments saying that she displayed an excessive amount of skin inundated social media. Those who were accustomed to the more quiet and modest apparel that is generally associated with gospel musicians were caught aback by her choice of attire. For many others, the performance itself was overshadowed by the attention that revolved around her outfit, which became the focal point of the discourse. Not only did one Instagram commenter go so far as to advise that she needed a stylist, but they also highlighted the split between those who felt that Leandria should stick to a more traditional image and others who praised her audacity. Having said that, it was not only her physical beauty that made a commotion. Concerns were also voiced over the manner in which her security conducted himself during the performance. According to reports, fans who attempted to get near Leandria while she was performing at the event were met with a hostile response from her security detail. Several concert-goers had the impression that the bodyguard was excessively protective of the audience and even angry toward them, which contributed to the unpleasant mood that prevailed at an event that was intended to be joyous and empowering. This event caused even more controversy regarding the relationship that Leandria has with her fans, as well as her developing status as a public figure for both her gospel singing career and her public persona. A rumor, Johnson has never been one to shy away from her struggles, but the allegations that have been circulating about her life reached a turning point when she publicly addressed a challenge that was not only very personal but also deeply intimate: her fight with alcohol. As a result of her inflammatory diatribe about the church and the consequent expulsion from the Essence Festival in 2018, rumors related to her personal life began to become more prevalent. There were a lot of people who speculated about what was going on behind the scenes, and it wasn't long before Leandria decided to tackle these allegations head for head. At the Met Philly Church in Philadelphia, Leandra gave a transparent testimony in which she revealed the reality of her situation. A battle that she had been silently battling for years, she acknowledged that her difficulties with alcohol had taken over her life and that she had been fighting it for years. Based on Leandria's account, the issue was not only a minor inconvenience, it was something that had she been preoccupied with on a daily basis. When she recounted her regimen, which consisted of drinking beginning quite early in the day and continuing far into the night, the severity of her addiction became abundantly evident. It became her regular companion from Monday through Sunday from that point on. What made this discovery even more unexpected for her followers and the general public was the fact that her drinking issue had been kept mostly secret until she was forced to address it following a series of bad occurrences. This was the reason why this revelation was so shocking. It all started with a traffic stop, which would radically alter the way her life would go from that point on. She explained that she had attempted to drive home from a pub that was only 8 minutes away after she had consumed alcohol for the night. Because of a failing light on her vehicle, she was pulled over by the police after driving for a short distance, but it was long enough for them to pull her over. Initially, the traffic check was a regular one. Nevertheless, it quickly escalated into a sobriety test, which she failed, which ultimately resulted in her imprisonment. There was more to this arrest than merely a wake-up call. Leandra was about to go on a voyage that would prove to be challenging. An order of probation was issued to her as a consequence of the event. However, things took a turn for the worse when she broke the terms of that probation. She was given a term of 30 days in jail as a result of the infraction, which was a period that caused a significant change in her life. In addition, Leandria was obliged to wear an ankle monitor throughout this period. This served as a concrete reminder of the repercussions that would result from her behavior. As Leandria would later relate, the ankle monitor became a symbol of not just her hardship, but also her perseverance and potential for atonement. In front of the congregation of the church, she revealed that in order to finally quit drinking, she needed to be monitored around the clock. The 7th of December was the last time she used alcohol. This day continues to have a crucial place in her effort to recover from her addiction. Alcohol consumption, which had been a part of her daily routine, had at long last come to an end, and with it the denial that she had been living in for such a long time. The truthfulness with which Leandria discussed her addiction also touched on the more profound suffering that she had been bearing. In her confession, she said that she had used alcohol as a means of numbing herself from the personal losses that she had faced, including the passing of her brother. She sought to avoid the reality of her sadness via drinking, which only served to feed her addiction despite the emotional agony she was experiencing. Nevertheless, she continued to spiral downward even though she was warned by friends and loved ones. She was hesitant to acknowledge that she had a problem until it was too late. It wasn't until that fateful night at the bar, when she found herself in handcuffs, that she understood the seriousness of the predicament she was in. She recalled how it felt to be detained, and how the time she spent in jail after my arrest turned out to be a moment of reckoning for her. As far as Leandria was concerned, this was no longer about concealing herself behind her renown or the veneer of her public image. Acknowledging her errors, taking responsibility for her truth, and eventually making the decision to change were all part of the process. After completing her sentence and emerging out the other side, Leandria went on to describe the changes that had taken place in her life. It was then that she began to talk about how she had improved as a mom, becoming someone who her children could finally look up to. Before it, she had been emotionally unavailable and frequently furious because of her drinking, which had caused her to withdraw from them. However, at this point, her children were witnessing a new version of their mother, one who was present, conscious, and resolute in her efforts to reconstruct her life. In a statement that was made public, Leandria made it quite apparent that she was not going to conceal herself behind closed doors or pay anyone off to remain silent. Instead, she embraced openness and accessibility. She was forthright about her challenges, and she made the decision to utilize her position to motivate others who might be going through hardships that are comparable to her own. Although she was aware that some others could criticize her for being so forthright, she believed that it was essential for her to be truthful about the experiences that she had gone through. Even though she was aware that being vulnerable would result in criticism, particularly in the eyes of the public, she was prepared to pay the price for it. Her messages were unmistakable. Although she was not flawless, she was making the required efforts to recover and develop. What do you think about Leandria Johnson's views? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you and see you in the next